Year 2122. The world after the catastrophe. Month 1. No one thought, no one suspected it would happen like this. There were no particular signs, just a siren. And that was it. No panic, no screams. I had been preparing for this day for a long time. It was as if I could always feel it coming, right at the tips of my fingers, as if I just knew. It's shameful to admit, but a part of me sometimes wanted this day to come, that one insane second of the end times. But my rational mind told me to let it remain just a hobby, to let things be as they will be. Well, I can congratulate myself. My dream came true. I climbed into my bunker under the house, well, more of a well-equipped cellar. And then it hit me. I was thrown around like a rubber ball on the floor, and then everything went quiet for many long days. I was glad I had food, water, and a ventilation system with filters. I also had all the necessities, even a weapon with ammo that I acquired through less than honest means. I always salivated at the thought of fighting off a gang of bandits with it. It looked like that moment would come in the near future. My only activity in the bunker was scanning the radio frequencies, but they were all dead. No one was screaming into the airwaves. No one was trying to contact anyone, which was strange. I mean, I'm alive, so someone else must be, right? But as the days passed, the hope of finding anyone melted away. The shortcomings of my modest shelter also became apparent. The lack of any kind of periscope to see what was outside. The only way for me to know what was out there was to go out myself. And that was unacceptable, at least for the first few days. The radiation levels would be at their highest. I had no problem with food, but the water supply was far from infinite. I had considered installing a larger tank, but then I thought, what's the point? If you can't go outside after a month, this bunker just becomes your personal, well-appointed crypt. It would only prolong the agony. That's what I thought. Turning on a small flashlight and reading books on anything that might be useful, I conserved electricity, afraid to waste it. I had a small, independent generator, but its fuel wasn't endless, and I had no idea how long I'd be sitting here. Intellectually, I understood it all, but I was scared. I wanted to live too much to risk it. And so my days passed. I'd wake up, pick a can of food, then listen to the radio, trying to call out. About that. At first, I yelled into the mic, then I stopped. The thought that I was the only one screaming across all frequencies was unsettling, so I decided to lie low and wait for others. After that, it was reading books or watching movies on my laptop, and that was pretty much it for a whole month. Month 2. Like I said, plenty of food, but only 4 days of water left if I don't ration it. By now, the radiation levels should have dropped. The wind and rain would have settled the radioactive ash. A whole month has passed since I took shelter, which is a long time. But that doesn't mean I'm just going to rush out. I pulled out my NBC suit from under a bench, put it on, and checked that everything was snug. I grabbed a dosimeter and an assault rifle and headed upstairs to the door. I was terrified that something had collapsed on it, or that the frame had warped, and this was the end for me. But I opened the door, breathing a sigh of relief, and saw the world. Sunday heat. It was June, after all. If you didn't know what happened, you might think everything was normal, but no, it wasn't normal. Everything was covered in dust and grime. The trees had lost their leaves, which were now a sickly yellow. It had rained once, and that rain was dangerous. In the distance, I could see the corpses of skyscrapers. I live far from them, in the suburbs, but the city still got hit hard. And here, another flaw in my preparations was revealed. I may have an assault rifle, protective gear, and all that, but I didn't have something as simple as a bike. Now I'd have to walk to the city. Everything outside was basically broken. The radioactive dust was infuriating. The dosimeter crackled whenever I pointed it at anything. But there was good news. The levels weren't lethal. That meant the dust itself was the main danger. Still, one question bothered me. Why was it so quiet? Why was there no one, no evacuation, nothing? Why was the city silent, even on the radio? This isn't a desert. Someone must have survived. It was too quiet, too wrong. It shouldn't be like this. I adjusted the strap of my rifle and started working on my antenna. Like any radio station, I had an external one that ran through a conduit along a tree. It was beaten up but not destroyed. That meant either my equipment was faulty or things really were this quiet. My goal was to get to the store. Obviously, I couldn't eat what was on the shelves. It was all contaminated. But people had to be hanging around there. People, I thought, walking down a street lined with rotting cars, expensive and not, now useless to everyone. I stopped a few feet from the store, holding my rifle. No people. But there were signs of them. The windows were broken, and it was clear someone had been looting. And there were bodies, hideously torn apart bodies. I should say skeletons, with pools of dried brown blood beneath them. Cannibalism? In the first month? That's a little early, especially right next to a store. I squinted, trying to see inside. There was still stuff on the shelves, so they hadn't taken everything. That made the acts of cannibalism look even stranger. I decided to get closer and check out what had actually happened. Inside, things had been looted. Food was taken, but it was more like a tomb. For some unknown reason, there were too many dead in here, and they were all practically skeletons. What happened here? I stepped through the aisles, heading for the delivery area to see if they had a cellar or something. A place where, of course, there would be fresh water waiting just for me, so I wouldn't have to go far. Of course, there was nothing that interested me. The only thing I grabbed from the loading dock was a pack of batteries. They didn't seem too radioactive. Coming back outside, I spotted a person. He was standing and looking right at me. But there was something wrong and unnatural about him. He stood too perfectly, as if he knew exactly where to look. He was tall, and looking at him gave me a strange feeling, the uncanny valley, I guess. "Stay right there, friend," he said, as he started moving toward me way too fast. I raised my rifle and motioned for him to stop. Useless. My hands started shaking. But I pulled myself together and shot him in both legs. "What are you doing?" the man screamed. But his voice was strange, unnatural. At first I thought it was because of the rag he had wrapped around his face. But as I got closer, I was only more convinced that he was deeply suspicious. After a moment's hesitation, I shot him in the head and looked around. First rule, the one in the creepy place yelling the loudest that he's a friend is the real enemy. Besides, he closed the distance so damn fast. I walked over to the body and pulled the rag off his face. It was like his mouth was full of hot mush. Teeth. Big teeth. Yellow, terrifying, crooked fangs. Almost no lips. And his eyes were feral. I also noticed that his torso was short but his legs were long and incredibly powerful. Subconsciously, I couldn't believe this was possible. This wasn't a person. It was something that looked like a person, but even dead, something was wrong with it. And now, if things like this are roaming around, where did they come from? A person couldn't grow teeth like that in a month. It's impossible. Now it was clear why there were so many skeletons around. Someone has a very big and very unhealthy appetite. This meant only one thing. They ate everyone. It just can't be. It simply can't. Or can it? In any case, it's a good thing I'm so distrustful and didn't hesitate. Otherwise, I'd be lying there next to him. The cunning bastard knew people would go to the stores and was waiting for me. And the fact that I fired my gun wasn't good either. What if it wasn't alone? There could be more of them. I needed to be more careful. They could sneak up and attack from behind. I walked until evening, carefully. I was dead tired, but I made it to the city, to the first high-rise buildings. It was hot in the suit. I took breaks, hiding in the shade. I wasn't in any hurry. And the gas mask I never took off didn't exactly help with running. So I walked, slowly, deliberately, without rushing. Once inside the entrance of a high-rise, I allowed myself to at least take it off. The dosimeter wasn't showing any major deviations. As I removed the mask, the stench of death and shit hit my nose. Ugh. Nothing to be done. I had to keep going. I couldn't do or see anything in the city at night. I needed a room, at least, where it would be clear from which direction they might come. I started climbing, slowly, noting how grim everything was. Skeletons were lying even on the stairs. Skeletons, knives, backpacks, cans, belongings, documents. It was all here, lying around, useless to anyone. These things ate everyone. Reaching the 4th floor, I decided that was high enough and chose a 2-room apartment that had no remains. The door was open and untouched. I went in, looked around for any danger, and once I was sure there was none, I went and locked myself in the bathroom. I pulled off my boots and the NBC suit, carrying my weapon with me. "Could really use a shower," I whispered, looking at the tap that had long been without water. Oh well, I chose the bathroom for the night for a reason. No windows and only one entrance. If someone started banging or trying to scare me from behind the door, a single burst of gunfire would be enough to end it. I lit a solid fuel tablet and put a can of porridge on it to heat up. Dinner was going to be bleak. Porridge with meat and garlic. To drink, water from my flask. Not very tasty, but I had to thank fate, and myself in part, that I had anything at all. I also took a quarter of a potassium iodide tablet. The radiation was high in some places, and I didn't want my teeth and hair falling out in 6 months, with my thyroid swelling to the size of an apple. While the food was heating, I cleaned my weapon. After eating the porridge, drinking some water, and grabbing 2 fur coats from a closet, one for a pillow, the other to cover myself, I was just about to fall asleep, clutching my gun, when I heard them in the stairwell. They weren't stomping exactly. They walked deliberately, as if they weren't afraid. But they stopped on my floor. I heard a quiet knock on my door. Then again. And again. Better to find out what they want. God forbid they start breaking it down in the middle of the night. The whole neighborhood will hear. I got out of the bathroom and looked out the window. Darkness and silence. I grew anxious. Who could be visiting me at night? "Good people, let me in. I'm not an eater. Open up, or I'll leave if you don't want to. I can smell food. I'm very hungry. Please." "Who are you?" Oh, man. You want a bullet? No. So who are you? I lived at 16 Lennon Street, apartment 40. Now I'm just roaming. Maybe a bullet after all. Please, I'm starving. I can't go anywhere. They're lurking in every store, waiting for people. I'm so sick of the salted cucumbers and tomatoes I've scavenged from dachas. I've had diarrhea for days. I'm hiding, eating what I can from jars. You know what? Just toss me a can of real food. I'll trade you for whatever you want. What do you have? Well, I've got a lot of lighters. I've got water. Where'd you get water? From a cellar. Someone loved their cold, sparkling water. I grabbed some along with the cucumbers and pickles. Plenty of pickled stuff. He was talkative. I'm getting a flashlight. I'll open the door. You take everything off your face. No sudden moves at the entrance, or you're dead. Got it? Got it. I'm not an idiot. We'll see about that. I lit the flashlight, gripped my rifle, opened the door, and said, "Get in." A man appeared in the apartment, also in a protective suit and gas mask. A backpack, a knife hanging from his belt, and a sawed-off shotgun. He slowly took off his gas mask and threw back his hood. I'm not an eater. Not even crazy. Just Vovka. I'm a plumber, by the way, he smiled. It was nice to see such a simple-hearted person in such a cruel time. I'm Seryoga. I used to deliver furniture. Well, deliveries in general. Come on in, Vovka. Tell me what happened here. What are you? A mole man or something? What? You know, hiding out somewhere? Yeah, in a personal bunker. I'm a little crazy in the head, been preparing. That's why I have all this stuff. You can also tell me what these eaters are. We made a trade, socks for matches, and only after everyone got what they wanted did we start talking. You mentioned the eaters, I started, and just all of this. Tell me how you saw the world end. I mean, for me, it's obvious. I was in a bunker. I've thought about it 100 times, how it would be. And just like in life, everything always goes to shit. It was the same here. I was at my dacha, far from here, a 3-hour drive from the city. We weren't even hit that hard. The strikes landed on the industrial complexes in the city's center. We just got the fallout. I was in my garden, drinking a beer, grilling some meat. The radio was playing. Then suddenly, it all cut out. An announcement came on, saying we had to hide. So I hid as best I could in the root cellar, and that was it. That's how I met the end. And then what changed? The first 24 hours were fine. Everything was okay. But then the voices around started to die down. What do you mean? What does that mean? The radio said we had to stay home for a week, avoid the rain, that kind of stuff. They announced gathering points where there would be aid. That was all on the same day. By evening, it was silent. I waited out the rain, then drove from there to the city. And it was a nightmare. They were eating them, catching them, and eating them. They ate people and their own kind. I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand what was happening. Many people had problems, couldn't defend themselves. Sickness. Some got caught in the rain, some were blind, some deaf. It was all a mess. And them? They ran tirelessly, catching and eating everyone. They didn't care who. That's why we call them eaters. A week later, I managed to have a proper conversation with a survivor who saw everything. He said they came from out of nowhere. An hour after the strikes, they started banging on doors and windows. He said it was like they crawled out of a rift or something. But they came right after the impact. They were even banging on his door. He only survived because he didn't open it. He said that in the first few days, those who were left alive died in their own homes. They're learning, you understand. Before, they didn't even bother with clothes. Now, look, they cover their faces, approach in a way you can't get a good look at them. They still talk strangely, of course, but it's a matter of time. I think they'll learn what they need to.
I heard they caught one alive.
It was tough. They're much stronger than people, can snap your arm like a dry branch, so catching them is hard. Anyway, they caught one eater, but it was useless. You see, he was like a rubber doll. He just repeated words he'd heard from someone, like a parrot. He'd overhear something he needed to say and just repeat it. But there was zero consciousness in his eyes. Where they're from, what they are, all they do is eat and eat. They're almost immune to pain. You either have to shoot them or cut them. But their danger isn't just in their strength, but in their cunning. They are sly creatures. They won't attack a single person. They might follow him, see where he goes if there are other people there, and only then do they do something. In the first month, I heard a lot about them. That they like to pretend to be travelers, victims, women, whatever. They'll say anything at your door just to get you to open it. The moment you do, it's over. You're dead. They don't just eat people. They'll eat a cow, a chicken, anything. And their legs. You've seen their legs, right? How long they are. You can't outrun them. They're true predators. Wait, where is everyone? Seryoga, they're everywhere, not just here. There's no one to help us. We're on our own. Rumor has it this problem is everywhere. Everywhere. There's one serious tell that gives them away. Their faces, which they hide with rags or gas masks. Otherwise, well, their legs are also massive. It's just incredible. Incredible. But you, Mole Man, you got lucky. You know how they used to hunt people? They'd form packs and herd them into dead ends where they'd butcher them. I heard one of them can eat 5 people down to the bone. They also kill their own. I guess when they get hungry, they kill absolutely everything alive. But for some reason, they like us the most. In the first few weeks, they ate so many mole men like you. The city used to be the most dangerous place because that's where they fed. Now they're tracking down whoever's hiding in cellars. A lot of people got away and managed to spread the word about them. So, Seryoga, you're lucky you didn't run into anyone. Or rather, that no one ate you. But if you meet one in person, you have to make them take off their gas mask immediately. There's no other way. You said they appeared after the strikes. Has anyone seen the impact site? Have you been there? Someone might have seen it, but at the site of the industrial complex, there's a crater. Same in the city center. And you see, the radiation levels there are so high that 2 blocks away, it's a lethal dose. You could get there, see what's there, but you wouldn't be able to tell anyone about it. And you might not even make it back. I don't advise you to even go near there. Death from radiation is guaranteed. Even here, you're walking along, and the dosimeter starts screaming, makes you jump. Now imagine what it's like in that pile of metal. Vovka, you just saying all this. I can't believe it, even though I saw it myself. That was our mistake. Everything went to hell because we didn't believe. We thought they were normal people. We gathered them, evacuated them, and then the camps with the evacuees were littered with skeletons. They're cunning, don't forget. They brought in 300 people, turned off the lights, and in the morning, 0 survivors. No one fully understands what this is, or why there are so many of them, and where they came from. And people tried to fight back? Who was there to fight? Are you even listening to me? Some were dealing with tragedy, some were blind, some were deaf, and some were naive. They ate half the city in the first few days, and the other half was trying to escape. There are small groups of people, I think, but too much time has passed. And the eaters act too quickly, too cunningly. Every day they come up with something new. Before you know it, tomorrow they'll look completely normal. Listen, Volodya, you're alone and I'm alone. Let's stick together. It's got to be easier with two. Seryoga, no offense, but no. I don't want to be in this city. I was looking for my family, and I found them. They were eaten, most likely. The whole apartment was covered in blood, so I'm trying to gather supplies and head south to the sea. All my life I dreamed of seeing it. Maybe I'll get to see it before I die. I can't be here. It's not for me. Better to be on the move. Besides, a party of two makes more noise, and the eaters navigate just like people. They'll catch us. A motorcycle? Definitely not. They run faster than a person. Not by much, maybe 1.5 times. So a person can't escape, but you can get away, even on a bicycle, if you're lucky. He stood up and walked to the window, behind which the city stood in complete darkness. In darkness and silence. So quiet. It had never been this quiet. A concrete crypt. That's why I have to leave. I don't believe this is even possible. It's science fiction. But you saw it. I saw it, but I refuse to believe it. This is our reality now. What are you going to do? I don't know. I don't want to go to the sea. I think it's worse there. And why? Here, I know where things are, how things work, who lives where. And again, the bones of my parents and grandparents are here, in this land. Where would I go? And is it even necessary? You know, I think it will be better by the water. Probably a lot of people think so. After listening to you, I don't really want to cross paths with people. It breeds nothing but anarchy and the rule of the gun. It's one thing when you kill to survive, another when you do it on orders. At least with survival, there's a law of nature. You killed to live. You can feel different ways about it, but that's how life is. Over there. I don't want that. I don't think it's a good idea. Plus, the sea might be poisoned by all this. You're wrong about that. The rains, yes, but the water will likely purify the land. The climate is milder. What are you going to do here in the winter? They'll find you by the smoke from your fire. There, at least, you don't have to worry about that. No, I'm not going. We're definitely not on the same path. We stayed up that night, talking about a lot, mostly personal things. But it was only in conversation with another person that I realized there are things and events that happen, after which the only thing you can say is, that's it. This was one of those cases. There are no people anywhere, and the ones that are left, creatures are hunting and eating them. No one is coming. No one will help. There's only you. You and other people who are unlikely to be your friends. You're alone, and that's never going to change. And you have to accept this reality. In the morning, we went our separate ways. He went south, somewhere, and I went to an underground parking garage. I broke the security guard's window, took the keys, and got myself a quad bike. I also rigged up a small trailer to it. As long as there's a chance, I need to use the benefits of civilization. Gasoline won't last forever. It has a shelf life too, and I don't know how to make fuel. But first, water, food, medicine. I have to find all of it. Driving out of the underground garage, I headed for a wholesale warehouse. There would surely be basements or something like that. And, well, I wasn't wrong. But besides the nice things at the warehouse, there was something else. Eaters and people. The eaters were tearing people apart and eating them, while others tried to kill them. I drove up just as the last eater was finished off. Only 2 people were left alive. They were on a tractor with a trailer loaded with all sorts of things. At first, they were about to open fire on me, but I raised my hand and they lowered their weapons. Then they went on their way. I looked at what was around me. Blood. Everything was covered in blood. People must have been coming here constantly, but they never made it. There were bodies of those creatures, and gnawed bones and everything else you can imagine. I backed my trailer up to the entrance and started searching for goods. I got my hands on everything. Water, food, a purification system, and a great many tools and more. I would say that I am happy and have everything, but unfortunately, I can't. Life has become more dangerous, though also more exciting. Not too long ago, I was almost eaten. A weapon. It's a sign of control, a sign that you are a real person. That's what I thought. I saw the eaters. They watched me from the corners of empty apartments, and sometimes even ran across the road. Of course, I didn't hold back and sent a burst of bullets after the runner. I learned to distinguish them even from behind by their habits. But not long ago, I was in what I can only call a garden that had grown to enormous proportions, both underground and on the grounds of a house. 2 figures came out to meet me. They emerged from the bushes and waved their hands as if to say stop. They were dressed in chemical protection suits and gas masks, backpacks, weapons, everything like people. "Take off your gas mask," I said, putting them both down. What saved me was that they didn't know how to take their weapons off safety, but otherwise the scene was well staged. They wanted me to drop my weapon. Why? Right, because they had seen it somewhere, overheard it, and did the same. That's why I saw it now. They are learning. And perhaps the only way not to die is to live. Like a fucking paranoid. Speaking of everyone else, frequencies have appeared. People started talking. Trade began, bartering, and all that. They started sharing news. Someone said he was a communications engineer, and if he could get out, he could organize something like a local PC network once he solved 2 million problems. There were people in the region, but not many. But the radio did not go unnoticed by the eaters. They are cunning and treacherous, not just because they can attack from behind. They know how to analyze. There was a precedent where 8 people were eaten. The eaters caught one with a radio, managed to explain what they wanted, and he lured the others into a trap, and they all died. And later, there were 2 frequencies where they sit and broadcast, for us, horrific programs. "Hello there, come to us. We have water, food, people. We will give you safety, kerosene, a bath to wash yourself. We are selling animals, water filters, flour. Ours is not contaminated.
Someone might laugh and say it's nonsense. But there was something about it. The music was so cheerful, jazzy, rhythmic, and that's probably what made it so terrifying. They spoke clumsily. They didn't know what they needed to say, which was good, but they knew how to use it. When I listened to them, I always imagined a crocodile promising not to eat the beef that was about to jump into the river. They pronounced the words choppily, as if with an axe, and with extreme clarity. Every letter, every sound was produced by them with damn precision. Their speech had no flaws, although it was incorrect, but you could tell they were trying very hard. News also came from other regions, where they had managed to establish better communication, and the news was alarming. The eaters had several subspecies, which were very rare and seen only from a distance. The eaters were also said to catch people on the highways, mainly sitting along them, near food warehouses, remaining production facilities, and stores. Their numbers, despite all attempts to exterminate them, were not decreasing, but growing. There were also reports of their increasing cunning, and that now it made no sense to look at clothes and weapons. Now, to not be killed, you had to immediately show your face. That was the only vulnerability. There were also reports of a huge concentration of these creatures. The reasons why they were there were unknown. Such was the latest news. Every day from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
There were also reports of growing nervousness.
4 months had passed. The laughter had ended. Communication in the neighboring region was lost. Or rather, it wasn't lost. There would be no more news from there. The eaters had managed to take over their bunker. It was reported that they had dramatically improved their analytical skills and, choosing the right moment, were able to seize it and penetrate inside. It was also reported that they were now capable of using weapons, if they were loaded. At that point, the broadcast was interrupted. But I had other things to worry about. I had cameras set up everywhere, scattered in handfuls, and for the last 4 days, I've been sitting here not daring to go outside. Because they are sitting outside my door. I counted about 10 creatures regularly circling my house, with 2 on duty right at my door. The others are scattered around the territory. This wouldn't be a problem, or rather, it wouldn't have been. But I'm apparently dumber than these eating machines. As if reading my mind that I knew their positions and was about to act on it, the next day there were about 40 of them, and now there was no chance. If I opened the door and they got their hands in, that's it. I'd never close it. And right now there were at least 7 of them sitting under my door. I tried to call for help, but the situation is problematic not just for me. Some people have stopped broadcasting altogether. They are sitting and watching me. I did an inventory of my supplies, lots of food and water for about 2 weeks. I think if I don't open the door, there won't be any problems. Right. They're pounding on the door, blows against the door, stomping on the roof, well, for them on the ground. I'm looking at the cameras. Somehow they figured out how I use them. They started tearing them down and ripping out all the wires they could find, all but one, which I had hidden particularly well. The camera was aimed at the door and covered a huge area around it. So I can't say I've stopped seeing. But the message that they'd figured out the cameras came almost simultaneously. They acted as if on command, and they continued to pound on my door with a log,
The whole next day, I listened to the howling. The people I had become friends with were screaming. They were being killed, their shelters broken into. They tried to root me out too, but my cellar is a fortress. They got on my nerves, and at night, no one was banging anymore.
The fun started the next day. From behind the door, they started whispering that they had a bathhouse and oil, and that I could trust them. After my colorful and juicy response about what I thought of that, they started pounding with 2 pairs of hands. The roar continued for 17 hours straight, so loud I couldn't even hear my own thoughts. A week has passed. A wild, monstrous roar. Nothing new is happening. They found the wire to the last camera and tore it out. Now I don't know what's happening outside the door at all. I can't listen to the radio station. I can't answer. The roar is so loud that even if I scream, I can barely hear myself. I won't give in to them. I won't give in, I think. My gaze falls more and more often on the loaded assault rifle. The thoughts about all this are getting heavier and heavier.